Think about the context. John was right on earlier when he said it's really about the context. Think about your context. I'm going to share with you the context that I know well, but hopefully there's a takeaway for each of you to just kind of go, okay, maybe I can some of this to my world. And whether it's exhaust or suspensions or ignition or body control module modifications, think about it in that context, please. In the electronics world, we are dealing with such significant structural change, but that structural change is, first of all, the people that we want to do business with have this thing, not necessarily an iPhone, but they have a smartphone, right? And what do we enjoy about a smartphone? Connectivity, right? I'm connected all the time. Get my email, go to the internet, run the apps of my choice on my smartphone. I get entertainment, I get information from my smartphone. So think about that in context to what we have to do in the automobile from the electronics point of view. Some of this will spill over directly into what you folks are doing. Now, second part of interactive approach to the audience. How many of you in this room, your companies are working on something that has an app-based architecture or platform? I would submit, and I have a feeling these folks that will follow me will push hard on this. You need to consider that this is now part of your world. There could be an exhaust app, guys. There could be a suspension app, easily. If you think about what Danny showed us, think about the visual aspect of today's environment. Whether it is the smartphone, or it's our home environment, or it's the dashboard of our new car, so visual, right? So now you've got continuous connection, you've got carry-in devices with apps running on it that's got a lot of content and a lot of visual, right? And then we've got the reality that most of us in this room probably have to deal with, which is the bus electronics. And we know it's a hassle, right? I have spent years reverse engineering for the aftermarket side of my business, right? On the OE side, you get the advantage of signing an NDA with somebody and they give you all the goods that you need. But in the aftermarket, we're reverse engineering a lot of stuff, right? Integration is becoming more difficult. It's not over. It's not over at all. But we have to change our minds, accept that this is part of our world today, get over it, and get onto it. Because from the consumer's point of view, what do they want? They're carrying this thing now into the car, right? They want to make it work in the car. Now, I like the word harmonization. Sometimes I've presented this several times. I presented this at CES just this past year. They come up to me and they go, Steve, come on, man. Dude, you can't really have harmonization. Well, you're not talking about my wife, right? This is really key. I am all about thinking like a customer. I would submit everyone in this room has to think like a customer. Because if we don't, we won't figure out what we want to sell them. And we won't figure out the value proposition behind what we are creating for them. The problem that we all face, everybody who's in this automotive world, and whether you're aftermarket or you're OE or you're both, bless you if you're both, because you got some diversity that you can build on, right, is a problem with cycles. Having worked with the car companies for 20 plus years, I have sat in their planning sessions when they are conceiving automobiles. 4 years later, they're sort of getting it together to say, we might build this. We got to take it to the board next week and we'll find out if we're going to actually build this thing. Right? Well, that's the automotive cycle. Bless SEMA for allowing you as members, or us as members, to be able to come to a SEMA garage and get some measurement sessions, because you got to catch up to the difference between that development cycle and what the consumer wants. The poor consumer is sitting there with products in their hands that are basically on a 6-month cycle. Technology and meshing it into the automobile, knowing that these guys want 4 years and these guys are going to change the rules in 6 months. That's a reality of what we're dealing with today, right? The diversity of the tech platforms is also a bit of an issue, right? Now we're looking at, all right, we've got 2, possibly 2.5 big contenders in the smartphone arena. So we got to make whatever we're going to do in this car, and if it's going to have an app attached to it, we got to make it work across iOS, Android, maybe QNX, maybe Unix. You know, this is where John can speak more accurately because it's his world, right? But flexibility to meet our customer needs is the really key aspect of this. And then, of course, safety and convenience. I'm here to tell you all, safety and convenience is the next thing for us in the aftermarket. Think about the testing that's going on as some of these, you know, what John and others have shared already with you today, right? Why is SEMA spending so much money to develop tools for members to test, to make sure it is compliant with regulations? Well, where do those regulations come from? The safety perspective, right? So it's very, very important. What we are all doing is in this world as well. So take one step back and go, like most people, oh my goodness, what do we do with this? Because this is really a train wreck unless you have a vision and a framework. I'm going to say that framework needs to have some basic, really, really basic guidance points. Number one, what we do has to be upgradable. Remember, the tech world is evolving roughly every 6 months. Vehicle world is evolving or revolving or sometimes regressing. No, I didn't say that. Every 4 or 5 years, right? From, you know, conception of a platform to build of a platform. And then they build that platform out for 3 or 4 years. So, upgradeability, cloud plus a software-driven architecture. Very critical to the framework of product development in this new environment. Hardware flexibility. It's directly tied to the upgradeability, but it's also those of you who are involved directly in the hardware piece of it, because usually most companies get broken into, here's the hardware guys, here's the software guys. And it's guys like John who are tasked with making those two teams work together. How's it going, John?
I didn't have this much gray hair when I started.
Right? So, prioritize VOC. Small question. What's VOC? Prioritize the voice of the customer. When you start your conceptual, creative development of a product. Remember, I'm all about think like a customer first, right? And then you got to get the bean counters and everybody in because it's got a business sense. And thereby we have to satisfy many different perspectives at the end of the development cycle. Right? Today, it's content driven. Everything is about the content. What Danny showed us. I had one really big takeaway from Gary's presentation this morning is that, you know what? Change is the only constant that we can rely on. You could do the death and taxes thing too as well, but I prefer not to, right? But change is really the only constant that we have in our world, right? And this is really one of the key factors. When you have an app on a smartphone, why do you have that app? I don't care if it's Flappy Birds. Why do you have it? Right, and it's content, right? Could be streaming music, could be video, could be simple entertainment, gaming, etc. It's content. So it's a kind of a bigger headspace all of a sudden, right? Oops, sorry. All right, and then the last piece of this framework is all about Silicon Valley plus Motor City. It's really all about collaboration. Without it, nobody is going to win in this new environment. Nobody. Right? Because it's content plus the delivery method plus the hardware all coming together in an automobile. Take that and start and think about, again, in our world in terms of the, what we like to call infotainment, right? This infotainment consumer needs advanced, and I like to use this, something I coined a few years ago, I get criticized for it all the time, techno-happiness. You guys have heard of techno-babble? Well, techno-happiness. Don't worry, be happy, man. Right? Why? We're in a connected network world. Period. Don't stop to even think about it. It is the world that we are in, right? Connected ecosystems. It's really hyper-connectivity because every time we turn around, whoever is our wireless carrier is telling us why we should get their new system because it's bigger, better, and faster, right? In the home, Fios, right? Verizon just upgraded my Fios to 100 meg. Free. I don't know why they did it for free. But I got lightning speed in my home now, right? Network-enabled devices and services. A lot of the apps deliver services, right? The connected car really was born out of how can we get some services into that vehicle? And many of you could play a role in that very easily if you change, just as Gary was suggesting that we all need to do, and look ahead, right? Social behavior is critical because the consumers today are very social. It amazes me when I get into either sessions like this or dealer roundtables or manufacturer brainstorm, or what I like to call it brain swarming now. I hate brainstorming. Brainstorm is a bad thing, right? Stormwatch. No. Brain swarming sessions where you're trying to gather collaborative input, right? And people say, oh yeah, the social thing, that's just the young people. You ever looked at the demographics on Facebook? It's all what is shaping our environment today, right? This social behavior is driving exploration and discovery of everything. If they've got an app on their smartphone, like a Pandora or a Livio, or I'm sure some of the things that John will be speaking to in a moment, right? one of the beautiful things is we all get to discover new things. And it drives all kinds of commerce. Makes iTunes happy, right? Community, social everything. I mean, there's all kinds of apps that people now have on their phone, you know. Like, I really want to know where Kirk is. Call up an app. Kirk's at, oh, really? He's there? Right? Collaboration and sharing in the vehicle. It blew me away. My daughter is a second-year student at Chapman University. I took 3 of her friends out about 2 weeks ago. Now, these girls are 20. They do have the ability to speak. They start giggling, but nobody's speaking. And I'm going, what are you guys doing? They're texting each other, and they're sitting 3 across in the back seat. Like, what's up with that? Then you add on the layer of Instagram and everything else, and it's like, wow, right? Really key. Advanced user experience. Here's the problem that we all face now. We all have these things, and I don't care whether it's a Google or Android-based product or an iOS-based product. We are familiar and comfortable now with this user experience, right? I went to a car dealer the other day with one of my clients, a very well-known German car manufacturer. And we sat there and watched people go to the touch screen and try and pinch and grab. We're trying to say, you need to really rethink your ideas looking ahead, right? That advanced user experience is also part of what the app and the connected car scenario is building for all of us, right? So, in our world, and I say our because I'm in automotive electronics, right? With a foot in both camps. In our world, the tech critical success factors kind of boil down to 4 basic quadrants. You've got the display in the car. Well, hello, in the future, the display is going to be a dumb display. Because less and less and less is going to be actually embedded in that car, and it's going to be resident in the device that they carry into the car. All right? Now, some car companies are drawing a very fine line. I bet Danny knows this very, very well, because some car companies do not want to turn over their user experience to a smartphone. They want an embedded experience. And that's going to continue to exist, right? So the display, obviously, has got to deliver whatever information the car company wants, but it's also going to be very smartphone-centric. It's going to be driven by apps, including Nav. We sell a $1,500 Navi system when we know people walking around with their smartphones have a Navi app. I would submit to you, that's not as big a problem as many would think. Because what is this? This is first and foremost, what is this? Phone, right? So there's always a conflict of these kind of devices trying to do that. So as you look at all this, you've got the integration piece, the in-dash hub, right? So those of you who are doing anything with, OBD or controlling any of the systems in the car, think about it in this sense. This could be your platform, why you want to get into an app-driven aspect of your business. And then, of course, the connection, right? So it all adds up to this new sort of thinking about our automotive business in the aftermarket. We got all these factors, right? And we've seen a lot of declines, unfortunately. But guys and gals, don't consider that the future. It's not the future. The opportunities are to embrace all this and get going in this new type of environment, right? Because it's really boils down to smartphone plus apps is the technology platform, right? Realigning distribution. Some of you may be using new methods of distribution. You may be using old school methods. Think about your distribution. And then add-on and upgrade integration and safety technology are going to be really key drivers in all of this. So my last thought is, it's really not what we can do in the vehicle. It's all about what we should do in the vehicle. Thank you.